Hello, wonderful audience. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with me. Welcome, friends, to our video dedicated to Ian Stewart, musician. Let's dive right in and uncover its wonders. Ian Andrew Robert Stewart, 18 July 1938 – 12 December 1985, was a British keyboardist and co-founder of the Rolling Stones. He was removed from the lineup in May 1963 at the request of manager Andrew Loog Oldham, who felt he did not fit the band's image. He remained as road manager and pianist for over 2 decades until his death, and was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame along with the rest of the band in 1989. In this chapter, we'll be shedding light on early life and its role in shaping our understanding. Stewart was born at his mother's family farm, Kirklach, at Pittenweem, in the East Neuk of Fife, Scotland, and raised in Sutton, son of architect John Stewart and Annie Black. He attended Tiffin School, Kingston upon Thames, Greater London. Stewart, often called Stu, started playing piano when he was 6. He took up the banjo and played with amateur groups on both instruments. Let's now turn our attention to role in the Rolling Stones and uncover the fascinating insights it brings to the table. Stewart, who loved rhythm and blues, boogie-woogie, blues and big band jazz, was working as a shipping clerk at a London chemical company when he was the first to respond to Brian Jones's advertisement in Jazz News of 2 May 1960 to seeking musicians to form a rhythm and blues group. Mick Jagger and Keith Richards joined in June, and the group, with Dick Taylor later of the Pretty Things on bass and Mick Abory later of the Kinks on drums, played their first gig under the name The Rolling Stones at the Marquee Club on 12 July 1962. Richards described meeting Stewart thus: "He used to play boogie-woogie piano in jazz clubs, apart from his regular job. He blew my head off too, when he started to play. I never heard a white piano player play like that before." December 1962 and January 1963, Bill Wyman and Charlie Watts had joined, replacing a series of bassists and drummers. During this period, Stewart had a job at Imperial Chemical Industries. None of the other band members had a telephone. Stewart said, "Desk at IC, I was the headquarters of the Stones organization. My number was advertised in Jazz News and I handled the Stones bookings at work." He also bought a van to transport the group and their equipment to their gigs. In early May 1963, the band's manager, Andrew Loog Oldham, said Stewart should no longer be on stage, that 6 members were too many for a popular group and that the older, burly, and square-jawed Stewart did not fit the image. He said Stewart could stay as road manager and play piano on recordings. Stewart accepted this demotion. Richards said, "Might have realized that in the way it was going to have to be marketed, he would be out of sync, but that he could still be a vital part. I'd probably have said, 'Well, fuck you,' but he said, 'Okay, I'll just drive you around.' That takes a big heart, but Stu had one of the largest hearts around." Stewart loaded gear into his van, drove the group to gigs, replaced guitar strings and set up Watts's drums the way he himself would play them. "I never ever swore at him," Watts said of their relationship. He also played piano and occasionally organ on most of the band's albums in the first decades, as well as providing criticism. Shortly after Stewart's death, Mick Jagger said, "He really helped this band swing," on numbers like Honky Tonk Women and loads of others. "Stu was the one guy we tried to please. We wanted his approval when we were writing or rehearsing a song. We'd want him to like it." Stewart contributed piano, organ, electric piano and a percussion to all Rolling Stones albums released between 1964 and 1986, except for their Satanic Majesty's Request, Beggar's Banquet, and Some Girls. Stewart was not the only keyboard player who worked extensively with the band. Jack Nitch, Nicky Hopkins, Billy Preston, and Ian McClellan all supplemented his work. Stewart played piano on numbers of his choosing throughout tours in 1969, 1972, 1978 and Stewart favored blues and country rockers and remained dedicated to boogie-woogie and early rhythm and blues. He refused to play in minor keys, saying, "When I'm on stage with the Stones and a minor chord comes along, I lift me hands in protest." In 1976, Stewart stated, "You can squawk about money, but the money the Stones have made hasn't done them much good. It's really gotten them into some trouble. They can't even live in their own country now," referring to band members' tax exile status to minimize tax obligations on their high incomes and royalty payments. Stewart remained aloof from the band's drug abuse and partying lifestyle. "I think he looked upon it as a load of silliness," said guitarist Mick Taylor. "I also think it was because he saw what had happened to Brian. I could tell from the expression on his face when things started to get a bit crazy during the making of Exile on Main Street. I think he found it very hard. We all did." Stewart played golf, and as road manager showed a preference for hotels with courses. Richards recalls, "We'd be playing in some town where there's all these chicks, and they want to get laid and we want to lay them. But Stu would have booked us into some hotel about 10 miles out of town. You'd wake up in the morning and there's the links. We're bored to death looking for some action and Stu's playing Glenaggles. Now, let's dig deeper into other work and unveil the hidden treasures it holds within." Stewart contributed to Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll from Led Zeppelin IV and Buddy with Stu, which was also named after his nickname, from Physical Graffiti to numbers in traditional rock and roll vein, both featuring his boogie-woogie style. Another was Howlin' Wolf's 1971 The London Howlin' Wolf Sessions album, featuring Eric Clapton, Ringo Starr, Klaus Bowman, Steve Winwood, and Bill Wyman and Charlie Watts. He also played piano and organ on the 1982 Bad to the Bone album of George Thorogood and the Destroyers. He also performed with Ronnie Lane in a televised concert. On 5 January 1966, Bill Wyman produced Stu Ball for Ian Stewart and the Railroaders at IBC Studios, London, with Stewart on piano, Wyman on bass, Keith Richards guitar and Tony Meehan drums. In 1981, Stewart and Charlie Watts contributed to the song Bad Penny Blues, which appeared on the album These Kind of Blues by the Blues Band, and was a founding member, with Watts, of Rocket 88. Prepare yourself for an eye-opening discussion on personal life in the upcoming portion of this video. Stewart married Cynthia Delaney on 2 January 1967. Together they had a son named Giles. Through his son, Stewart has 4 grandchildren. Let's zoom in on death and posthumous recognition and understand its implications. Stewart contributed to the Rolling Stones' 1983 Undercover and was present during the 1985 recording for Dirty Work, released in 1986. In early December 1985, Stewart began having respiratory problems. On 12 December, he went to a clinic to have the problem examined, but suffered a massive heart attack and died in the waiting room. Stewart was 47 years old. The Rolling Stones played a tribute gig with Rocket 88 in February 1986 at London's 100 Club, and included a 30-second clip of Stewart playing the blues standard Key to the Highway at the end of Dirty Work. When the Stones were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1989, they requested that Stewart's name be included. In his 2010 autobiography Life, Keith Richards says, "Ian Stewart. I'm still working for him. To me, the Rolling Stones is his band. Without his knowledge and organization, we'd be nowhere." On 19 April 2011, pianist Ben Waters released an Ian Stewart tribute album entitled Buddy for Stu. One of the songs recorded for this album was Bob Dylan's Watching the River Flow, played by the Rolling Stones featuring Bill Wyman on bass. This was the first time since 1992 that Wyman joined his former band. Stewart was honoured by the Scottish Music Awards in 2017. Jagger, Richards, Wood and Watts all sent video messages for the ceremony, and the award was accepted by Stewart's widow and son. Now, let's redirect our focus towards works inspired by Stewart and discover its significance in our narrative. According to a Sunday Herald article in March 2006, Stewart was the basis for a fictional detective, The lyrics to Aidan Moffat and the Best of song The Sixth Stone were written by Ian Rankin about Stewart. The song is included on Chemical Underground's compilation Ballads of the Book, which featured Scottish authors and poets writing lyrics for contemporary Scottish bands. Get ready to immerse yourself in the world of selected performances as we examine its impact and relevance. The Rolling Stones, Orbin on You Can Make It If You Try 1964, 2120 South Michigan Avenue 1964, Empty Heart 1964, Time Is On My Side 1964, and Stupid Girl 1966, Piano on Stone 1963, Round and Around 1964, Confessin' the Blues 1964, Down the Road a Piece 1965, That's How Strong My Love Is 1965, Flight 505 1966, My Obsession 1967, Honky Tonk Woman 1969, Let It Bleed 1969, Little Queenie Live 1970, Brown Sugar 1971, Dead Flowers 1971, Sweet Virginia 1972, Silver Train 1973, Star 1973, It's Only Rock and Roll But I Like It 1974, Short and Curly's 1974, Summer Romance 1980, Black Limousine 1981, and 20 Flight Rock Live 1982, Percussion on Hot Stuff 1976, Led Zeppelin, Piano on Rock and Roll and Woody with Stu both recorded in 1971. The Yardbirds, Piano on Drinking Muddy Water 1967. Share this video with your friends and spread the knowledge.